Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Brady Burke.
Here.
Commissioner Barry David. Commissioner Ken Nelson.
Here. Everyone stand as you are able for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any changes to the agenda? No. No changes. Okay. All right, let's go into, as mayor, been here for several months now. I think one of our long-term, most important needs is coming up with a comprehensive plan. These are 20-year comprehensive plans, and we're going to get into the details of it. I sent some questions to the Southwest Missouri Council of Governments, Jason Reyes and Jake Phillips. Jake does a comprehensive plans, helps a lot of other cities, but we're going to get into some more details there. And Jason, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so Jason Ray, Executive Director of the Southwest Missouri Council of Governments, or SIMCOG, as we refer to it. SIMCOG is a 10-county regional planning commission. We're set up by state statutes, a petition of the local governments that make up the 10-county area, and an executive order of the governor's office. And so we've been formed back in the 60s, I think is when the state statute was passed. But we, councils of governments, are an association of local governments, and we serve to oversee growth and development of the 10-county region and provide technical assistance to local governments. I like to explain us or describe us as like an extension of local government staff or nonprofit consultants to add capacity to local government services. We're funded by state and federal funds primarily, and then fees for special projects such as comprehensive plans or zoning code updates. Or grant writing and administration projects.
Did you say that anyway?
Yeah.
Okay, the council sent questions to Jason, and Jason, if you could just kind of go through these, because I think you gave complete answers, and I think we just need to dig into it here on the council. And certainly this is all again, also to inform the public on what a comprehensive plan is. So I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, it's sort of my next towards so many folks, but if you have a question, let me know. So as the mayor mentioned, comprehensive plan really serves as like a 20-year vision for the community. It's actually required by state statute for a city or a county that has planning and zoning ordinances to have an adopted and appropriately maintained comprehensive plan primarily to guide your land use decisions, so rezoning requests, as well as your public investment opportunities or priorities. So it's required by state statutes. It's a little bit gray on like what it means, like how frequently you need to update it. The rule of thumb is pretty much every 10 years. Typically, demographic data comes out in 10-year chunks. But if your community is experiencing growth or significant economic impact of a business closure or something like that within that period, then it's very appropriate for communities to update them in a much shorter period of time. So a couple of years to react to those changes. So while we try to update the plan every 10 years, it is supposed to look out 20 or 30 years to create a vision for what you want your community to look like in that period, how to guide growth and development, how to protect your natural resources, your prime agriculture land as you're looking at annexations or development opportunities. We obviously want to protect prime farmland and those natural resources that our communities need to survive, our human population needs to survive. And then create a roadmap for decision makers, so elected and appointed officials, on where to direct your public resources, so that we're not, building roads or infrastructure to nowhere without a plan on what that infrastructure is going to support in the future. And then also so that you're to be hopefully a little bit less reactive and more proactive in providing community services to your businesses and your residents. So the comprehensive plan It's not a legally binding document, it's legally required in the state, as I mentioned, but you can deviate from the plan if you have justifications. Of course, nobody has a crystal ball, and so even though the community might come to you and say, we would like for this to be the future of our community, and we would like to target growth and development in this area, preserve this area, as market conditions change, as maybe disaster events happen or whatever, or different proposals come to you that we didn't even think could be a possibility. The city council and the planning and zoning commission and the elected officials can justify deviation from the plan or amend the plan as needed to meet the community's changing needs. But the idea is, at least our philosophy is a robust public engagement process, which is required by state law. To have public feedback, we like to err on getting a lot more public engagement than absolutely necessary, so that it's actually a community-driven plan and vision. And it really tells the elected official that this is what the community wants, instead of having what we might see as pet projects for elected officials or something that doesn't really have community buy-in. And it's also great to kind of get a gut check too. We've got our own perceptions of what we think is going on in the community, but does everybody else kind of agree? So we can present data, ideas, and then get the feedback on that way and then pivot or adjust it accordingly. So that 20-year plan really is kind of a roadmap for the whole community. And it's not just, it doesn't actually just have to serve the city. I mean, the basic function of it is for land use controls and regulations of zoning. And of course, land use impacts your infrastructure capacity and abilities. But you can put economic development strategies that your Chamber of Commerce, other economic development groups in the area can build off of and create a collaborative environment for the entire community so that everybody's supporting the same vision.
Nutshell.
Big nutshell.
Well, I like the fact that it involves the community, and it is long-term, and kind of gives you the direction you need to go. No plan based on my experience, so you're gonna have things that come up, you're gonna have to change how you described it pretty well. Anyone out there have any questions about?
You mentioned the state statute required by state statute. Could you reference that statute? Do you know the number?
Yeah, chapter 89. Chapter 89 is the.
It's what?
Chapter 89.
Chapter 89?
Thank you.
Do you have a written, or with the people that know that, for example, other government agencies, I'm sure you give us, or ideas that come to you versus if they pan out and we present to another agency and moving forward, putting something on paper, presenting it to them?
Yeah, we do that quite a bit. So the question was about rapport with other state or federal agencies. MoDOT contracts with SIMCOG to actually facilitate the transportation planning for our region. So in Missouri, it's a grassroots approach to transportation funding. We have the statewide transportation improvement program for the MoDOT system, but those transportation needs are identified at the local level, then prioritized with the help of our county commissions and elected officials at the county level. And then we have a regional transportation advisory committee that then vets them even further. We assign some, safety scores and other metrics to that. And then we take that on up to MoDOT and prioritize it through their system. And then that's what populates the STIP to direct state funding, state and federal funding for transportation improvements in the state. So no project on the MoDOT system occurs without it coming through SIMCOG and our planning process, and those projects start by talking with the local entities. And the same thing for economic development planning. We are funded in part by the U.S. Economic Development Administration and the Department of Commerce to provide economic development planning for the region and identify and update economic development strategies for the region as well. So we've got a great relationship with the economic development funding agencies at the federal level, and we can identify projects or strategies through the region and at the local level that we can then leverage those federal resources to be able to bring to the communities. And I'm not going to go on. I mean, we also work with SEMA and FEMA in a similar capacity for disaster mitigation and disaster recovery priorities, as well as homeland security.
Yeah, they have a question. Next question we asked was, how many in Southwest Missouri have used SIMCOG to facilitate the comprehensive plan, vetting and all of that? And I see about 10, 12 cities here in the Southwest Missouri area. Republic and Ozark are the ones that stick out to me. They got some big plants on higher populations, and so it sounds those folks are probably going to go for the Cadillac if they can. So I appreciate the fact that they're on the list.
Yeah, I was trying to count it up, and I threw this list together just for memory as I could, but in sitting here, I think it's actually closer to about 20 that we've done since I've been director, which has been about 7 to 8 years now. But SIMCOG has been doing this since it's been reestablished in the late 80s. And then previously, my position here, I was deputy director of the Regional Planning Commission in Joplin, where I did a lot of the small community comprehensive plans over there, like Burnsville, Carl Junction, some of the smaller villages around Joplin as well. So several comprehensive plans, and in addition to those, we do transportation plans for communities as well. So Marshfield's transportation plan, Bolivar's transportation plan, and then some have asked us to do just active transportation plans, looking at the sidewalk and trail systems. They've got a pretty good handle on their road and bridge projects, because that's what they hear on a day-to-day basis from their constituents, but looking at being more proactive on the active transportation side of things. And then disaster mitigation plans, and so it goes on and on. But about 20, I think, we've done comprehensive plans for SIMCOG. We've also assisted some consultants. So some cities have hired private consultants, and then we work with them as well, provide them GIS data, kind of give them a check on some of their data that they're gathering from other resources, and kind of just guide them through some of the process a little bit.
Are those plans accessible on the internet? If someone in the public wanted to look at it,
Yeah.
where would you go to find them?
If you go to simcog.org,
And could you, SIMCOG, is that
SMCOG.
SMCOG.org?
Yeah, and I think we've got a publications tab and one specifically for comprehensive plans. Might not have all of them on there, but we try to put a few we think are good representation on there. And then I'll point out the city of Ozark was a unique one that I think we've got a link on our site that takes you to their website, because that one is we've got both the kind of static plan that we put together that's more traditional, and then an interactive plan that as you scroll through online, it populates a map in real time.
Yeah, if you look on the city of West Plains, it's right there. And the reason I mentioned that, there was some similar population, not the same city, obviously, there's a difference between us and the West Plains. But it was completed in August of last year. So that's kind of a recent one. I don't know if you guys
Look at it.
yeah, it's pretty good. Don't try to print it out.
Don't try to print that. That is not in our planning region, so that's our neighbors.
But that would make it fairly current with the economic circumstances we're going through around the country, so.
I think if you look at Find Aurora 2 years ago, didn't you guys do Aurora 2 years ago? Because I'm pretty sure that's on your website. I looked up some other comprehensive plans for something else, and I'm pretty sure I saw Aurora, which was comparable to Monett as we did.
All right, the third question we asked was, what does a comprehensive plan include? And I've got land use, economic development, housing, transportation, public services and facilities, environmental considerations, downtown revitalization, and implementation charter. And that's a pretty complete list of everything you might want to do in development of the city.
Yeah, I mean, it's truly supposed to be comprehensive, depending on the community's needs. Envision we can focus more on excuse me, some areas than others. that downtown revitalization thing is kind of a customized thing where we can do other sub-area plans if there's areas of particular growth demand or sensitivity. I know housing is a big issue for a lot of our communities now, and so we're trying to beef up that housing section in our plans quite a bit with new data. The basis of it is your land use, your future land use plan. That's what's required by state law, as well as some thought in your infrastructure build out. So looking at sewer master plans and all that stuff, trying to incorporate that into the comprehensive plan, so we can look at the public infrastructure as well.
Jake, looks like you might be the lead if we do it on Monett, correct? Yeah, do you have, how many people would work on the team? Because there's a lot of stuff in here.
There is a lot of stuff in there, and it takes, it's a full-time thing. But we actually, have different planners in our office that we all lean on. So, we have a hazard mitigation planning house with, that sector, and we have transportation planner on staff. And, we have a lot of different members and resources that, try to reach out to just as mentioned our partners. So, we have a lot of connections, we have a lot of people we can talk to and ask for help, and a lot of good resources. So, yes, I'm primarily the lead on this and on these projects. And we do have, being tied to Mississippi State University, we also have some planners in training and some GIS professionals that are in training as well. So we use them and help them with our projects too.
Now, as I recall, when we met at City Hall, Felix, the price tag on this is going to be around $50,000. I think does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
For a town this size?
Yes.
Okay.
How long does it take to complete one? I know it's very unknown, but
The textbook ballpark, what we usually see is anywhere from 15 months to 18 months. We say a 12-month period, but we always do a little grace in there because you start up, you also have the end of the year budget season for cities, and people usually check out, so it's really not great.
is that per project or is that in the scope of years IT projects?
That's kind of what we typically see. Now, we can hit certain deadlines as part of the conversations we can have about when you're trying to hit certain deadlines, so you can apply for certain projects. So the main purposes of a comprehensive plan is to identify all future vision, which includes future projects. And some of those require hitting deadlines for, if you want to hit this deadline, you want to apply for this grant funding. We try to work with you on that and speed up certain processes or however we need to do it.
Yeah, typically it's that 18-month sweet spot that we like to see for a whole comprehensive planning process. We also build in time for those unpredictable things, and so we've had that time frame a bit just to give us some cushion to account for holidays and like you said, when staff are distracted from budget season or things like that. So we could do it in a little bit more consolidated process if there's that demand for it. And as you mentioned, we can meet other milestones within there as well. I like to say that funding follows planning, and we see a lot of state and federal grant programs require the project to be identified in a locally developed plan, again, to make sure that it's not just an unvetted kind of pet project of somebody who's local in the community, but that it actually has community buy-in and has vision and thought and planning going into it, so that we're making sure that we're good stewards of public resources, again, not just building a bridge to nowhere. So we've had one community that was looking at applying for some sidewalk grant funding. And so we carved out, we typically go through and do kind of a sidewalk mapping exercise for the entire community as part of the comprehensive plan. And so we went ahead and did that early on, did an assessment and helped them kind of package that as a sidewalk plan in of itself, just so they can meet that grant application deadline.
I have a question. My name is Mark Noriega. So the $50,000, is that, I guess to put it in simple terms, is that the red carpet layout or is that basic bottom of the line?
I would say we could do a pretty decent job with that, and that would be pretty all-inclusive. For a lot of our smaller communities, so rule of thumb, I think the starting point for a basic plan, for a small community would start at like $35,000. We're talking about Monett is a little bit larger than some of these on the list, so 50,000 is kind of right in that, right, pretty good. And I think that we can also use some of our online tools as well. We're not gonna be able to get like real fancy public engagement tools with that type of budget. So, we can do some interactive polling opportunities with some basic technology that we already have access to. But if you really want very fancy looking interactive feedback maps that, like, I don't know if anybody experienced the city of Springfield's public engagement process, but there was this really robust online mapping system that you could do practically anything with. We've got some capabilities that are similar, not nearly as fancy, gets the job done for I think what we need. But I mean, when you're looking at projects like that, I mean, the cost for that type of platform itself is $10,000 to $20,000 in and of itself. We've also been working lately to, within this past year, to shore up our data access capabilities. So we have partnered with other, so I forgot to mention that we're unique in that we're actually housed with Missouri State University. We're the only council of governments in the nation out of 400 of them that are affiliated with a public university. And we've got, it's a great asset. The bureaucracy is a nightmare, but we get access to a lot of research tools that are free or reduced cost to us. So we've been working with other university centers to beef up access to data that typically those license costs are tens of thousands of dollars in and of themselves. And we're kind of playing around with some of the access to those new tools that the university's given us lately. So I think that $50,000 is a good spot to get a quality plan without overshooting and bringing it to the real fancy stuff. But I think we've got the tools that we need to accomplish later.
On that 50, does it include identifying targeted industries, labor force and demographics, and grant writing assistance?
Grant writing assistance, yes. We offer grant writing to local governments at no cost in general.
So to this point, because I wasn't involved in any prior conversations, is there a menu of services? Yeah. Is there a good, better, best service that you provide?
We typically, in our proposals, provide some alternatives, and those alternatives typically look like the add-ons for if you want an interactive plan, kind of like the Ozark option. Takes a lot more work in building out those plans and making sure that platform works smoothly. Sub-area plans, so depending on if you want a really robust downtown focused plan or a feasibility study for a new industrial site, those are additional kind of add-ons that we list in our proposals typically that you can choose from.
So how did Monett come to the $50,000 level?
Well, I think that's what we were discussing about.
Because we're looking at the low end, it was 25, and I think you talked about Branson's around 80. I think that's what your Branson was.
But I mean, all this is just errant information. I don't know what all that means, so I don't know what's involved in that. So I would like to say, I know this is just a discussion, we're not making a decision tonight, but I would like to see more of what the services available are.
Yeah, we can craft that into a formal proposal.
Okay.
And if there's any of those specifics that you'd like to see included, such as those sub-area plans, or additional technology, enhanced public engagement opportunities, sure, definitely we can include those options.
Yeah, maybe it's one I don't know about now. So, okay.
Do you have previous work with Monett? Yeah, sure.
I don't think we've done a plan for Monett. We've been engaged over the years. So I attended several years ago. We did a transportation plan with, I think, Olson Engineering. And so I was at a lot of those meetings. We provided data to Olson and some feedback. We've engaged Monett in our regional transportation planning. I believe your city administrator has sat on our, and the previous city administrator, even Dennis Pyle, has sat on our advisory or transportation advisory committee. And then we've hosted regional economic development strategy meetings in Monett as well. We've engaged with the Chamber of Commerce on a handful of projects.
Has any of these projects been completed or still in the works?
Central Avenue and Temple Drive.
Well, so the specific project, I mean, with the deliverables, we're talking about regional plans. We have our regional transportation plan and our regional comprehensive economic development strategy. The other one's the transportation plan that we participated in with Olson Engineering. You guys have that. That was several years ago. There's a number of projects that we invited in that.
The Green Bay Trail came out of that as well.
Sorry, we also did the flood buyout project along Kelly Creek just a couple years ago.
With you guys being familiar with the flood situation in Monett, would that be something that Monett would be able to get a discounted rate at, since you guys have already ran the data and the demographics and have the information behind that?
I don't know that we didn't compile that information for the purposes of the comprehensive plan. I'd have to look and see what we've got. We compiled, I mean, it's pretty basic to get our floodplain maps. We've got, I think Monett's participated in our hazard mitigation planning activities, so we can pull actions for that, just like most of our communities have. I don't know if that would have much of an impact, but we can take a look.
All right, the next question is, what are the steps in developing the comprehensive plan? With emphasis on the initial steps. How to get started. So we could spend a little more time on that, but I can see we have 6 activities here. Look like the time sequence, right?
Yeah. Good. So we always plan to plan. So making sure that the community is in the right place and ready for the planning process. The initial step is for the community to set up what we refer to as a CPC, or like the steering committee. We call it the CPC for the Comprehensive Planning Committee, which is made up of a wide variety of voices from the community and those who maybe do business in the city as well. A variety of voices and representation on that group to kind of steer the process and double check our data, and then help us run through the on-the-spot activity. And sometimes we see that that's a big hang up for some communities. They struggle to get the planning committee put together. Others don't have a problem at all. They've already got names that are going off in their head of people who would be good to serve on that. We also like to say, get your biggest critic on there as well. It's always good to have them involved in the planning process so that they can.
And if I may interrupt, here's a real review. What's the preferred size of that committee? Right, 2 large is not very nimble.
Yeah, up to 15 is kind of like where we gotta cut that off. Yeah. Yeah, and if we could, that's where we would say, that's too much. But I think we could do around 9 to 12 or so on those.
Yeah, is there a kind of a mix of backgrounds? And what are you looking at there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's some different ways of process that we recommended, had to give one. That's kind of a question. Maybe appointed by the city or community leaders. Maybe you go through official process. Maybe call for volunteers. However, you all kind of want to designate that time. We just follow your lead on that part. But we do recommend, minimum 5, but 15 is good. We've had up to 20 before. Usually, sometimes you may expect them to drop out here and there. Can't make every meeting. So as long as you have those, you have that core that's always consistent throughout the meetings we have for the planning process.
And this is a divide and conquer type of an approach, so there could be small subcommittees that are derived out of a larger committee that will have more of a primary focus.
That's a good point. So sometimes we'll have our core planning committee, and then we can also have focus groups. So we may have other group meetings that are maybe a one-time meeting. We have stakeholder meetings as well. So we may have a meeting with housing professionals, so realtors, commercial property owners. We might have people focused just on business owners and economic development. So we can have these separate meetings with these different folks, so we can get different perspectives.
And you're probably getting more buy-in with that because you can tell it's a shorter engagement, right? So it's a short commitment.
That's correct, yeah. The one committee, they really, we have some material we can share with you, and it's kind of an introductory sheet, like what's expected of them. And we want you there all the time, we appreciate your participation, but you are expected to do this, help volunteer projects, help us do a survey, and you're gonna be our voice, essentially, helping us push this thing.
Food is always.
Yeah, snacks bar, yeah. So we try to get people from different backgrounds, so that can mean different age demographics, realtors, teachers, students, city representatives, planning representatives, really almost any perspective you think that's involved in your community, we want their input, because everyone has a different view of the city, everyone uses the city in a different way, in a different area, so that really helps us get all the different, target areas identified.
Per project, do y'all create like simulations and stuff like that, wall posters, boards and things to show an artist rendering of what the idea would look like? Do y'all provide that as a city function? Like we came up with an idea. Okay. Couldn't say something like that. As an example, do y'all come up with a creativity of roads, the simulators, and the artist renderings of the project and its complete stage?
Like architectural renderings you might see on Bushwhack for a subdivision, you come driving in, kind of that view, that detail, a little more like
Something that's just
conceptual, 2D.
self-explanatory to the people who see
I
it.
think I know the kind of you're asking, that's more like an urban planning type of.
But do they provide that? Or do
Some police over that I don't speak for.
Yeah, like renderings for like a hotel development would be outside the scope. Sometimes
like
tricky.
we want to put in a little bar or walkway or something with a
We can do
sidewalk?
very easy, yeah, we can include renderings, so like, let's take, Cleveland Avenue or something, if you wanna see what that looks like, have a tree line with like, kind of median or something in the middle of it, we can do those types of renderings pretty easily. When it gets to like specific, and we can do density, drawings as well, so you can see, how, this number of acres are workable, this amount of units per acre, that type of thing. We don't normally do, and we probably don't like to do kind of those like specific commercial development renderings. One, I mean, that's pretty costly and time consuming to put together, we don't typically include it. But also that kind of sets expectations from the community once they get a visualization of what a development is. Then they really kind of try to hold you to that, and then some other type of proposal comes in that deviates from that visual representation, then you might have some conflicts there. In this case by case situation, of course, that's really not something to do.
To answer your question, we do for our public engagement and everything we do like some visuals. We'll create maps, different scenarios. So we do help us with that scenario. So it might not necessarily be like, here's this lot, here's this hotel, but we may say, here's the city, here's some concepts, and identify certain areas that might be more suitable for one use versus another, and kind of show that graphically. And then we do have, a graphics person on staff too that can help us, kind of take that real context image and add some ideas to it. So that kind of evolves through the process of getting all the feedback to ultimately what vision would be, if that's an area of interest.
So that leads to this, and I'm sorry, I deviated off your explanation, but does this report provide recommendations for the community? Or is it really more providing data so that we then will consume that in the decisions going forward? It's both.
Yeah.
Excellent, okay.
You have to have, so the ultimate goal of the plan is to create goals, objectives, strategies, and then ultimately we put an implementation chapter, kind of an implementation matrix as well. And so the data informs those goals and objectives. We bring the data, translate it from kind of between planner speak and, everyday citizen speak with that planning committee, and then take their feedback and the public's feedback through open houses, surveys, and other public engagement opportunities. Craft that again into planner speak for certain goals and objectives where it needs it, and then build that out.
Yes, so you mentioned earlier about a feasibility study for, let's say, industrial development, or whatever. So to me, that was very recommendation sounding. And that's really good.
Well, it kind of tell you what's possible.
Sure.
And then what steps you would need to take to make it possible. So with the existing conditions, what's the what's the likelihood of the development or something going after a location? But if you really hear the community says that they want this type of development or this type of land use, then the city's gonna have to take steps to improve the infrastructure that serves that part of the community.
Are there other industry or commercial type feasibility studies done also for various commercial entities?
We can do, I think, a pretty quick kind of retail study. That's nothing too robust, but yeah, we can get some pretty data on that. Another area that we're trying to beef up some of our capabilities in.
There are local organizations that can also help with that too as well. That if you
As a
know,
bolt-on.
if we go through this process and we find some area that's outside our scope, we can provide recommendations on how to get there, what you need.
Right.
And then as you implement the plan, that's where you go out and seek additional studies or inventories, et cetera. So the comprehensive plan is comprehensive.
Sure.
It's gonna have all different ideas and visions, and we point you kind of in the right direction of where you need to go. So a engineering study may be more specific, or a specific retail study that's targeting certain areas could be more specific.
It's giving us those doors to open.
Correct. Yeah. And we'll do as much as we can with what we have at the time, but we understand, especially with some of those things, the market can change drastically. So you may be like, as we start implementing it, a few 5 years down the road, we're gonna start, now we're ready for it. We're not ready for that.
Okay, good, thank you. Sorry for the deviation, sorry.
Yeah, so I think we're talking about some of the pre-planning activities, setting up that steering committee. And then we also like to do some initial consultation with city staff and elected officials and key folks just to get an idea of what some of the hot button items might be for the community, what we should be on the lookout for, what sort of controversy recently happened, maybe the roundabout was involved. But talking through just so that we know what to be prepared for, and then just kind of craft our messaging to be mindful of what's been going on within the community. So we kind of get that at the very beginning stage. So we kind of set our own expectations of what might come our way, and so that there's context into random comments that we might get. What was this issue? We also then start collecting all of our basic demographic and economic data. We will pull all of the existing plans that you have, so your transportation plan, any of your sewer and water master plans, park plans. We'll comb through those flag items that we might have a question on. With communities that have not incredibly outdated comprehensive plan, we'll go through and do a plan audit, and we'll ask, what's the progress on these goals and objectives? Are these still relevant? Have they been completed? Do they just need to be thrown out? For communities that and I forget, I don't recall when the last 10-year plan was updated. For ones that are completely outdated, it's pretty much just a complete rewrite. We'll read it and just get some context from it, but we don't need to do that necessary plan on it, which really just takes more work off of the city staff's component. We'll still read it and we'll go through it for our own reference. And so we'll do that with all the plans that you've got, all the data. We'll start then conducting our inventories and assessments. So we'll create a current land use map. We'll look at sidewalk inventory, basically just taking an inventory of what's already here in the community. And then that's when we start meeting and engaging with the planning committee. We'll work with them. We'll have kind of an outline of a community survey that can go out. We'll get them to provide their input, massage those questions and responses to meet the community's needs. We'll kind of craft it into a non-biased and leading questions and answers. So we'll kind of filter what the committee is wanting to include in that survey, make sure that it's an appropriate instrument. and then work with them on getting that out through various means.
So on the survey, is that sent to just the committee members, or is that sent to the broader community?
The survey itself will be sent community-wide, and we do have some minimum expectations that we try to meet. So, a community of this size, we would target around 1,000 responses, slightly under. So,
Responses?
yes.
Wow, that would be a number larger than I would imagine. So
Yeah,
I hope we get that.
We try to do 10%, and then communities that are like 10,000 or above, we kind of 4,000 is a pretty good response.
So, surveys are, they're great, but they're also very challenging, right? I'm assuming, like, I love your approach on the questions and not leading them out, trying to sway or get certain responses. But, when they're crafted, are we looking for information that is going to be truly, I'll say, getting to the heart of a matter that's within the community? Because my fear always is with surveys, especially electronic surveys, is they can be forwarded to anyone, and even people outside the community potentially responding.
Very good questions, and usually we do talk about this exact same thing with our planning committee. So first we establish who we want to respond to the survey. The surveys are, well, we do hit demographics, so it's not just online, we do paper copies as well. And we can help out in any way if someone needs help. So my information is on everything. So if anyone has a question about doing it, you can call me and I can walk through that. Now, the questions we craft, we usually, after the information gathering, talking with the city, hopefully we find out those hard questions we want to target in our survey. So that being said, we try to tailor the survey so we're hitting on those specific topics. What information do we want? You can ask every question, but we want to target certain areas that the city needs to address, certain projects, maybe general feel or opinion about certain things. We want to know what that is. So that's how we develop the whole thing. Now, if there's an approach to ask the community-wide, what do you want to ask? What do you want to see? What do you want your opinion on? Then just ask them, and then we can use that too. I mean, there's no, step 1, step 2, step 3. We can, whatever the best approach is getting answers, we're willing to do that.
And we've had some communities that really wanted to engage their students. That community is the hub of the school district, and so they want to get their opinions. And typically, we would need to craft a little bit different survey to meet that population's needs and sensitive nature. So that'd be kind of an additional thing, but that's definitely something that we've done with a couple of communities of getting the student populations feedback on. I mean, what would it mean to you, or how would you envision this community if you wanted to live here, as you grew up, and on that, so that's another.
Yeah, we've asked, so we sometimes try to align the different age groups with similar questions. And so a lot of surveys that student surveys I've done, I always work with the school first off. They administer the survey, so I've never administered to the school. So it goes to the superintendent, the school does it, they approve the questions, so it can and can't go to the school. Students. They usually decide on what, they know their schools, they usually decide on what students or age groups to target. So that's, we go off what their recommendations are. They're professionals in that field. And so then we'll try to align some of those questions. So maybe, what type of housing is it? Or how big a house do you want to own? Do you want to rent? Where do you spend your money? What kind of job do you want? Does the city have it? Do you plan on moving away? There's a lot of different questions we can answer them versus like what your current workforce is and current market is.
We also put online surveys, IT areas, so we know that somebody's got 20, has entered 20s, the same responses from the same. Yeah, they're anonymous, but we can see if somebody's trying to stack there. I appreciate it. So, that's kind of the middle part of our planning process, I guess, for kind of the kickoff of our planning process to get that feedback through survey instruments. We take that back to the plan committee. During that time frame, while the survey is out for responses, we work with the committee on conducting typically what we referred to as the SWOT analysis, everybody's heard, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And that can take maybe a couple meetings, depending on the committee and how confident they are, and how many good ideas they've got, put that up there. And we then present them with kind of the survey results. We present all the demographic and economic data that we've compiled to that point too. And so we do that demographic presentation before we get to the SWOT analysis. That would to inform their responses there. Show them the survey results. At that point, we work with them to start kind of crafting the vision based on all that information. Start looking at maps of the community with targeted development opportunities, creating goals and objectives. Once we get pretty solid goals and objectives outlined, we like to do another public engagement opportunity. That can either be another kind of survey forum, or we can do that through a public open house or a mixture of the two. We know that people, if they're aware that this planning process is going, they've only been able to interact with it via one survey. And I know some communities are really antsy to get in the room and talk to somebody face to face, and then point to their property on a map and start talking about their neighborhood, what they like and don't like about the community, and just kind of get that person-to-person communication there. So we tend to like to do kind of a hybrid thing, where we have them in person and engage with the public, and then also have a kind of goals and objectives survey that they can either take on site. We've got some tablets and iPads that they can respond to on site, or QR code they can do on the phone or something like that. That again, got to check out the goals and objectives for the plan. Then we work on finalizing that with the committee, and get a draft documents to the committee and staff for review and edits, and then we go back out for public comments at that point while we're kind of making it pretty on the back end. So as we receive public comments, we can make adjustments, take important or new things that we might get during that period to back to the committee, just get their opinion on it, and then as we're finalizing the plan, make adjustments. After that round of public comments and feedback, then we'll package it up with the final product and deliver it to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Failed to mention that state law actually gives the power and authority to the Planning and Zoning Commission to adopt and maintain the plan. So typically P&Z is a recommendation making body. The one thing that they actually have authority on is to adopt the comprehensive plan. Most local ordinances require that the city council also adopt it and agree with the Planning and Zoning Commission. But that's just state statutes.
Now, I have a question. With those surveys that you're and the community involvement, have you guys ever taken a more of a aggressive approach to do those surveys at a community event where there might be people outside from other communities involved? Monett's very unique in the way that a lot of people. So Monett is situated between Springfield and Joplin and Fayetteville and Bentonville. And most of our dollars, if people are going to go spend the money, they go out and spend it out there. And we have a lot of surrounding communities that during the day, Monett's population doubles. The wages here in Monett do not reflect what the sales tax dollars produce. So in those surveys, would there be able to be some way to identify what surrounding communities are looking for, and so they can come and use that money here locally?
We can craft any survey. What I heard there was like, 3 or 4 different branch questions. So, if we want to, again, it's kind of going back to what you asked earlier is who's filling it out. So typically we start our surveys, okay, however you want to craft it. Do you live here? Do you work here? Do you visit here? And so there's some questions that help us branch off. So as someone fills out the survey line or even on the paper, we say clearly skip 2 if you're, this. So we can identify where they're from, what they're doing. Now, if you want to ask questions about where we're spending the money, that's a question we'll have to work through and talk to you all about and how to develop that. What is our target question? What do we want to ask specifically?
But also, what do we want to get out of it?
Correct.
Right, 'cause that's always my approach to any survey, is you can ask any question, like you said, right? You can grab anything you can see. What are you gonna do with that information? What are you gonna do with that data once you have it? If you're not gonna do anything with it, don't ask the question.
So what's the end result is what I would ask you.
To keep the wages local.
Well, again, it all depends on the question, right? Again, what do we want out of it? You want to get started the process?
Can I ask something with regards to this subject you're talking about there? Do you ever consult with large retailers, for example, Walmart and Lowe's? You go out to the Lowe's and they'll tell you where all of their people come from, because they track zip codes and all that stuff, and we can soon find out how much and what type of business is coming in from the surrounding area. Do you ever consult those people?
What I can say is that we always try to communicate with everyone in business in the city. Sometimes corporate policy stands in the way of that. So depending on how much they're willing to participate or share, comes from their.
Well, I suspect if you're trying to enhance their business, they're really here to talk to you.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Could be what she was coding too.
Yeah, that data from national chains, especially, they are shared with data companies. And so that's, if you were to do kind of a separate community retail strategy or retail study, then you would be able to pay the exorbitant license fee to get that data, and you can see exactly the zip codes that the visitors are coming from, even the data that you upload to your personal cell phone device, and they can say, I mean, I've seen great robust retail strategies or studies that say the people who visit this Lowe's, their next number one business that they go to is this coffee shop that's down the street, like that level of detail. But the amount data is valuable, and so that would take extra software licensing.
Well, the reason it came to my mind is I know before we had a Lowe's here, if you shopped at Lowe's in Joplin or Springfield, they were asking your zip code
Yeah.
because they were looking to decide whether they're going to build in Monett or not.
So if we're into the process, I'm a fan of best practices, but I'm also a fan of thinking outside the box, right? But what my ultimate question is, I'm assuming with all the engagements that you've done, you know what doesn't work, right? You know the rabbits not to chase. If we were to want something within our plan that you know is not fruitful, are you giving us that feedback, that candid feedback?
I'm always upfront with you.
Good.
And so whether, we do lean on you heavily because you're sitting, you're doing better than I do. And so what that means is, we talk about those decisions. We don't, one of the best things about the position we're in is that there's no good opinions, there's no bad opinions. I want it all. It's all information to me. And that also means, it's good for somebody, and somebody else may disagree with that. It doesn't matter to me what that information is. I want it all so we can talk about it, put it in there, and identify what it is. So we like to identify the themes as well of the area. So we may have our chapters, right, for the areas focused, but also have themes being developed that have some more specific issues with that everyone's talking about. If you want to do it this and this way, I can tell you my past with that experience, but if y'all want to still go that direction, then that's the direction we go. We're planning with you. I'm not gonna, say which way to dictate the direction of a plan. It's up to it's the community plan, it's your plan.
I get that, yeah, but it would be more valuable to me personally, I can speak for anyone else, but it'd be more valuable to me to know that this particular direction has been tried and does not produce anything. Okay, thank you.
And your facility, we got the 6 steps that you're facilitating a lot of that, right?
I'll be there every single one.
Okay. I think we covered 6 and 7.
If we were making a decision tonight, and we were signing a contract, when would it start?
That's yes. We've got several projects that are wrapping up right now, and there's a couple that are coming online. So I think we're pretty well positioned to take on this project, maybe one or two others that we've got in the pipeline. So I think before the end of the year, we might be able to get initiated and then start working on them, running that committee, getting our initial data filed.
Yeah, very much appreciate you all coming down here. And, I think the next step for us is what, an RFQ or, but there are other people or there are other commercial entities that help with kind of comprehensive plan.
Yeah, there are private consultants, again, we're the nonprofit consultants, so our rates are gonna be substantially lower, but we've got communities that will do like an intergovernmental agreement, take some sort of government, regional government agency, or you can do, of course, your typical RFQ, RFP, and see if you've got other options to.
Is this the, lack of a better term, formal proposal? Or would there be another meeting with all of us?
We can provide a written proposal, and then if you like us to attend, another
Okay.
Yeah, because I will look out at some of those other big plans. Because I'm sure as you heard, ask a lot of questions, and I'm sure that will spur a great number more.
What would make you guys unique compared to any of those third parties or individual consultants that the city would be able to hire? What would you guys be able to bring to the table that they would?
Most of the private firms around here are actually engineering firms that try to do planning on site. And in our experience, we have been called in frequently after, community contract with an engineering firm for comprehensive plan, and we had to help them redo some of the components that are required in the state statute. But also we've got the local and regional knowledge. They're affordable, very affordable in comparison, I think you'll see. And then we are already doing planning for the region, so we understand what's going on around here in Southwest Missouri. We've got the connections to like MoDOT, EDA, a lot of the implementation strategies to go after other resources like federal funding. We have a whole grants department that stays up on the federal and state funding opportunities. I don't think that private firms really do, because that's not where they make their money. Grant writing is typically money losing business generally, but we've got a whole department that's dedicated to that. So I think that those are some of our competitive advantages, I guess.
Do you guys also work with local educational institutions that offer certificates in order to be able to target certain industries for your labor force?
So we work with like workforce development boards. The one here is out of Joplin, and then other workforce development, so the trade schools and community colleges. We've got great working relationships with them. That's great.
So on this list of cities that you provided reports, which would you recommend that I look at? Things that are going to be similar in size, maybe scope to ours. Because I'm not familiar with many of these cities specifically, but I'm thinking of things that Monett has that some of these communities don't have: industrial park, airport, home utilities, things like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, every community is unique, so it's difficult to kind of do apples to apples.
Well, it wouldn't have to be exact,
Yeah.
but just to get maybe a good sample for.
And I mean, Stratford is a heavily, they've got a heavy industry presence there, but, you know, they're skewed with drive, for it, and immediately adjacent to Springfield to their needs, but similar on the industry component. And City of Seymour owns their own utilities, so they're, in that perspective, I think quite a bit smaller, you know, the industry presence.
I'll just, that's fine, no, it's fine, just, I'm not familiar with some of this communities, so.
I mean,
Because I think, you know, certainly I will look at Republic, Willard, those, well, you know, Willard is not in the same category as them, but Republic and those are, I'm very familiar with, and that they're much larger populations.
yeah, I also mentioned Aurora, I mean, it's local, it's different still, but.
Okay.
And also throw in there too that, you know, you also mentioned those plans and other communities that, you know, you think you're right. I'm always constantly researching comprehensive plans. They're across the nation, everyone has a different perspective on how to write them, but also the main came from the feedback they got from the community. So if you all have recommendations on what your target kind of plan wants to look like, feel like, you know, target on, I want those recommendations, so I can make sure I tailor them right.
Well, Missouri,
Oh, nationwide. Yeah, because somebody's doing it better somewhere else.
Don't look at New York City.
Well, there's some relativity in there.
You can do New Orleans, actually.
you're stuck with it.
Okay, do we have any more questions out there? Council?
Thank you very much. It's very enlightening, and I can't wait for us to engage this. This is good. And it's been in excess of 30 years since I last one. Yeah.
We asked you for a proposal, how long would it take you to get this proposal? I know you talked about when to start, but maybe I missed.
We could likely get started before the end of the calendar year on forming, initiating it, starting to develop.
Oh, so starting proposal, then?
No, I mean, the actual project is the proposal itself, we could probably get together the 30, well, I'm going on vacation, but, you know, within a couple weeks.
Okay.
We do need to look into the fact that whether or not we are required to get bids at this price.
I agree.
Yeah, talk to your attorney, look at your own policy, if he's there, if they're familiar with working with a government, quasi-government agency like us.
Yeah, okay.
Would you guys be able to get Ken that service event, that menu bar, as he put it?
I would expect that would be part of the proposal.
That's one, yeah, so we can see price and cost comparison.
Yeah, if there's any specifics as well, like other components you think of, make sure to let us know or include that in the process.
The only thing I probably gotta add, say is one thing that I want to highlight is that it is under the authority of the planning. However, it is, because they're a recommending body, so this is an advisory document to the recommending body to the policymakers. Got it. So overall, state statutes do say it can be portions of it, or all the plan can be updated. So it's a great plan that you all can use for guidance and recommendations, but then again, if you find your own way, a better way, then you can do that.
All right, good. Perfect.
Thank you for coming in, really appreciate the information.
And Justin, right? Jake.
Jake,
Yep, sorry, that's all right.
Jake.
Jake, not wearing that.
Thanks for coming on. Search your phone.
For anybody up here like a little bottle of water? No water?
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too.
what was your name again?
Jake. Yeah, you can, my email and there's my information on our website. Get more questions.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to the next item, that's a decision regarding the city's weight survey. This is, can you just tell us a little bit more about this, Aaron?
The wage survey? So I have reached out to all Sakers and Army. Karen Shannon is leading over that department. She sent us a proposal on the city wage study. She gave us two options. One was just a basic wage survey, and the other one was a more comprehensive wage survey with a salary study, and also it would aid in revamping some of our job descriptions.
Now, this is proprietary and confidential. We've got to keep it to ourselves. So there's, as I see it, as I read through this, the two options are to get wage surveys, and there's a price on here for that. And then the more complete version, job descriptions, how to come up with the strategy, hiring strategy for retention and all of that. So I think, based on that, I think that's our decision tonight, unless anyone would entertain going with someone else besides this company right here. That this was recommended to us, and Aaron's done some, reached out and to see, verify some of the records, I guess is the best way to put it.
We're talking city employees.
Yeah, for city employees. This is the wage survey we've been talking about. And I think we've done, or Aaron's done her due diligence on this. And I think, based on where we're at, job descriptions and that sort of thing, we're looking at probably more than just the wage survey.
Correct. That would be my preference, for sure. Yeah. We need it all.
I think so.
Titles, job descriptions, salary ranges, all of that.
Would that also include positions that currently do not exist for the city, but that will exist 15, 20 years from now, depending on growth?
We're just trying to get through a 20-year comprehensive plan here.
So what's part of that plan?
Yeah, this would be to take a look at current
Current
staffing
Okay.
and understand, so job descriptions, almost as soon as they're written, they become obsolete, right? And or when a job description is written, the person may be only fulfilling 75% of the stated requirements or expectations. I can't profess to know what many of our job descriptions contain. I've only seen maybe 4 in the last 6 months, but they're outdated. They need to be updated, and we need to make sure that our staff is getting compensated appropriately for the tasks that we're requiring or asking them to do, not just in that aspect, but also see how we fare in the market. Right? We want to make sure that we're justly compensating people for the job that they're doing in that market, and also the region and the state. So there's a lot. That's the comprehensive nature of it. So we're gonna get caught up.
Yeah, we gotta get competitive.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Well,
I'll move that we approve the city's wage study survey with Hollis, Acres, and Arnie. And remind me again for the sum total of
42,275.
42,275.
And give the name of the vendor.
Hollis, Acres, Akers, and Arnie, Arney. It's a Springfield-based company. It's our HR consultant.
Did your motion?
Yes.
I'll second.
Call roll, please.
Mayor Rainbow.
Yes.
Commissioner Derek Abraham. Commissioner Daniel Sun.
Aye. Now the lady.
All right, so the next item is decision regarding the RFQ for the city administrator. This week, sent out the RFQ, I think, late July, and had a 3-week window. I have 3 proposals here. And looking at, all of these right here, I think we have enough options to probably make a decision on this. So is there,
Do we need to, I'm playing parliamentarian here, but do we need to approve the acceptance of the proposals? Typically, we should. So you have a motion to accept the proposals, and then you have another motion to approve one of them.
sure, go ahead and make a motion.
All right. I will move that we accept the proposals, the RFP responses.
Second. Call roll, please.
Mayor Rainbird,
Yes.
Commissioner Randy, Dan Victorina, Commissioner Ken Gessler.
Aye.
What we do.
So now we'll move to discuss the RFP responses for the city administrator.
Do you want to have a favorite or at least favorite?
I do a lot of talking, so I'm gonna let you guys talk first.
Does everyone agree on this? That's the solid.
So I actually, called the references for all three companies. I called, multiple cities that they had, either done city administrator or city manager, over the past week, and I got some great feedback on all of the companies, except for Raftellus. I didn't get any feedback on them. But the other ones I did get, a lot of feedback on. Some of them had used Baker Tilly, and they had used the SGR, and they said one of the cities I talked to, their director of HR, they specifically liked Baker Tilly the best. And then I spoke with a city that recently used SGR, and in fact, they just closed out their position in July. And they really did like SGR. So all of them, except for Raftellus, and it was not that I got a bad reference, I just couldn't get anybody that they listed to contact me back. But Baker Tilly and SGR, I got great references off of both companies.
So for the record, we used SGR previously when replacing Dennis Pyle. I was not involved in that selection. When I came to the council, that selection had already been made, and candidates had already been culled down to 4. So that's when I joined the council. But SGR was toward the end of the process, so it was fine. I didn't see any issues with that.
Okay.
The feedback I got on Baker Tilly, was that they are more local, they're more Midwestern, and the gentleman that usually heads that up, is very well connected, and he knows kind of the up and coming, and he said that he's very hands-on, so he works directly with his clients. So you're not working so much with a whole team, you're working with directly him, and that was the good feedback that they gave me. One mayor that I spoke to, and I think Mayor spoke to him too, he said they had used them for 3 different positions.
And it's very utility.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, a little bit of that. When I was hired at 16, they hired me through Baker Tilly. And it was a very thorough process that they went through and they did back then. And I still get text from them this week on follow-ups. Because once you start with them, they never leave your system. And I was talking to see if you're interested in other opportunities. That's for 16.
Just saying. I don't know.
They keep up with their clients.
That's something on their triple guarantee. They number 3 on their triple guarantee is they won't coach your people.
They don't headhunt your people?
Maybe part of your agreement could be they took George's number out of the list.
Well, when I read the proposal, I looked at, okay, where are these guys placed? Where are they, how connected are they to Southwest Missouri this region? I looked at the price, the prices are, they're all around the $30,000 level. One, and I think Rick tell us it's a little bit more. And so I went and I called 3 mayors who used Baker Tilly, and all of them gave a big thumbs up on it. The Raftellus was just seemed too far away. It seemed like a nationwide focus. If you look at the people they had placed, it did a lot of East Coast, Ohio, and the West Coast. And that's when I looked at Raftellus, I wanted something closer. And when I talked with the mayors, this engagement team leader, Art Davis, They had a lot of good things in him. He seemed like he was very well connected in this area, so there's a networking component there, and I guess I never go away, so. So I looked at SRG, I talked with only one person, one mayor on this. They had used SRG, it was okay, but they thought that Baker Tilly, because they used both. And I like the Baker Tilly, but that they used SRG and said, okay, we're gonna try these guys next time. So, that's what I got out of reading all these proposals.
But aren't they nationwide search? You said the local.
Well, no, they have a nationwide search, but this Art Davis, he's up in Overland Park, Kansas. If you look at the cities that he's placed, I call 3 mayors, all 3 had just recently hired administrators within the last 2 years, and all of them were very happy with that. And when and one of the mayors, I can't remember which one, but they had gone and had hired Baker Tilly, they got the candidate all the way up, and they're ready to sign the contract. He said, I'm not gonna come here. And he said immediately they came, not immediately, but within a week, they came back with another 30 resumes to look at. So based on what I read in here and based on the references that you checked out, it sounds like these are local, hands-on, and pretty well networked for this part of the country. So they will still do the nationwide search, but I think the networks, I gather, works pretty well. And it's Mark Davis is the key person. So.
I've never went down this path before, okay, seriously. And this is all new to me. It's a learning process and learning curve, so recommendations, really appreciated by anyone.
So I'll go my last to first. SGR I would put in the 3rd place. Pro, I listed 4 SGRs, we've used them before. Con, we've used them before. I don't know if there's anybody better out there. So that to me, just because we used them before, it wouldn't, because again, I wasn't involved in that selection process. The things that I didn't really see in there was really no list of employees and listing their credentials and experiences. The other 2 companies in their proposals, they listed a lot of great detail about them. One really big con against them is that I didn't see anything where they focused on diversity. And I feel that Monett's demographics has changed greatly. And I'm really interested in a very diverse search. So I'm hoping that the 2 other companies, when they list, I listed those as pros for those 2 other companies. So Graftellis and Baker Tilly both specifically listed that they include diverse, I'll say organizations when reaching out to find candidates. So I listed as pros for the other 2. So again, I'm just going to say SGR is a number 3 for me. Number 2 for me would be Graftellis. They had a pretty decent proposal. I liked their team. I liked them casting a wide net again. You know, they do go national, they do go state, they do go regional. They get involved with the organizations that I listed, or ICMA and MML as an example. They listed a writing exercise as part of their process, and I find that as a pro, but I can also see that as a con because I don't know. Well, it's good. The good part of that is it's going to tell us their professional skill, right? It's going to tell us their communication style and how they communicate, how well they communicate. But what I don't know is what that process entails, and if it's, let's say, an assignment that the recruiting firm gives to the candidate, and they're able to complete it on their own. I don't know if it's the candidate that's writing that material, or if that's someone that's writing for it, right? So I like it, but I need more information about it. The con for Graftellis was that there's very little Missouri area work. They had 2, one in Chesterfield, one in Clayton. They had one in Kansas recently, but it's a small town near Lawrence, Kansas. They did not provide a brochure sampling. And I was surprised by that. And I want to make sure, do I have that right, that they did not, I thought they should have. These things were done very late at night, and I don't even know if I put the notes.
Do we have to provide some kind of brochure?
No, they produced that. They produced that, and the other two companies provided samples of the work that they produced. So that's what's going to, that's representative of what they are providing to the candidates. So that is a picture of Monett to the, exactly. So if they're not providing that sample, I don't know how they're gonna represent us, right? So that, I found as a negative. So obviously, number one for me would be Baker Tilly, and I'll just read off all of my grades.
SGR votes.
SGR had a brochure, yeah, and I think it was on data, I thought. Yeah.
Do we have to approve this brochure?
I wasn't involved in that first process, so I would imagine they're gonna,
You know,
I do not know that.
I would imagine they're gonna buy it.
Mhm.
And I would say just also to verify the content, make sure that they have information about Monett accurate. So, my pros for Baker Tilly is that they follow directions in the RFQ. It sounds silly, but if they're paying attention to the details now, they're gonna pay attention to the details later. They listed all their staff and credentials and experience. They seem to have placed a large number of candidates since 2000. They said 1,700 candidates since the year 2000. They are diversity focused, as I mentioned. That's very important to me. Very detailed explanation of their approach and customized service, which I like. That be dangerous, but I like that they have a very comprehensive approach. They have over 45 years of experience. Their triple guarantee, number one, I thought in that triple guarantee listing, I thought that should be just part of the service, right? They're talking about staying engaged. That's what they're promising, that's their guarantee. Yeah, we'll be staying engaged. The number 2 and 3 of their triple guarantee, I liked. They provided current and past references with contact information and such where SGR just gave a list of all the municipalities, and you'll see us in that list. You'll see 2021. You'll see Monett, Missouri listed there, but that's it. They just listed the city and the position, and that was it. Baker Tilly gave contact information, gave names, phone numbers, email addresses. So that was very appreciated. And then they listed that there would be a team of 10 dedicated individuals to our engagement. The other two companies didn't, they listed their staff, or their staff counts, which we requested, but Baker Tilly, I think, went way above and beyond that. I had some cons listed for them, but they're really insignificant. So my preference would be Baker Tilly as well.
You said you used Baker Tilly, sir?
When I went through the process, that's who they sent me through with them. And then I sent it to Jeff Shady through the local state testing assessment center. So there's 32 candidates from 7 states when I tested for my position. And very diverse.
It's a non-negotiable. Many of them, including Baker Tilly, mentioned about doing a management/leadership assessment. I think it was optional. They used the DISC assessment. I've done that 4 times at John Cameron Associates, and each time I've completed it, it comes out different. So I would not recommend us having that optional service. If it's included in their service, totally fine, but if it's optional.
Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about. With the dartboard on there.
It's fine, it's neat.
I'm pretty sure that is optional.
I'm pretty sure it was optional with all 3 of them.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I knew it was part of their presentation and such, but, so if it's something that we can opt out of,
I think I think this is
they're
icing on the cake.
They're neat, yeah, they're interesting, but I guess out of 4 times and that came on different every time.
Your conversation is heard, you had with these 3 companies, you find Baker Tilly to be easier.
Yeah, what I really liked about them was the way they listed out their references. They listed names, titles, cities, phone numbers, email. Like I called, some of these were people's, like some of the mayors, it was their mayor phone. So, I, called them directly and it was really nice because they kind of walked me through. And some of them that I talked to had used some of the other companies for different positions. But they all said that they had their best experience with Baker Tilly, so.
Make a motion. Make a motion.
Oh, got it. Okay.
I'll
I'll move that we,
Your advice.
that we contract with Baker Tilly for a total of $26,950 to provide executive search services for the city administrator position.
You gotta second it. You gotta say the whole thing.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. I just want to.
Second is fine. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Rainville,
Yes.
Commissioner Darren Davis, Commissioner Candus.
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you, Aaron.
And nice job on
That
this.
was very extensive, and I really appreciate the reference checks, because that's, proposals are one thing, but hearing the testimony from people that use them is critical. All right, I'll move that we convene to close session pursuant to section 610.21 through 610.22 Missouri revised statutes for the purpose of discussing personnel matters. And I would like the city council, I would like the city clerk, I would like the HR director, so authorize this.
I'll second.
Call the roll.
Mayor Rainville,
Yes.
Commissioner Darren Davis, Commissioner Candus.
Aye.
All right, thank you all for coming.
Great.